Picture this, folks. Welcome, ladies and gents, to the land of opportunity where dreams are made of tariffs. That's right, you heard it here first. Forget the pursuit of happiness. We're all about the pursuit of economic supremacy, or at least that's what our fearless leader seems to think. Grab your popcorn, folks, because this political circus is about to get real. Our story takes place in a land not so far away, where the grass is green, the skies are blue, and the trade agreements are about as stable as a Jenga tower built by a toddler. It's a land where politicians tweet before they think, and facts are as elusive as a decent bagel outside of New York City. Buckle up, Buttercup, because we're about to dive headfirst into the wacky world of international trade, where the stakes are high, the rhetoric is even higher, and the only thing more unpredictable than the stock market is our very own Commander-in-Chief. Let's be honest, folks, the man loves a good deal. Whether it's a real estate deal, a beauty pageant, or a trade war, he's all about coming out on top. So, when he looked at our neighbors to the north and south, he saw not friends, but competitors. Rivals in the game of global domination. "They're killing us," he declared, shaking his fist at a map of the world, probably mistaking Canada for a giant ice cream sundae. "They're sending over their goods, their people, their beavers." Okay, maybe not the beavers, but you get the idea. In his mind, America was being played, and he, the self-proclaimed master negotiator, was going to set things right. Now you might be thinking, surely there are more pressing issues than the price of maple syrup and tequila, and you wouldn't be wrong. But in the land of the free, where attention spans are shorter than a Kardashian marriage, sometimes you gotta create a crisis to distract from the real ones, right? At least that seems to be the playbook. Cue the record scratch. Our neighbors to the north and south, known for their politeness and love of all things spicy respectively, were, to put it mildly, caught off guard. They'd been happily trading with us for decades, sending over their finest maple syrup, avocados, and yes, even those infamous beavers. But suddenly they were public enemy number one? The Canadians, ever so polite, tried to reason with our fearless leader. But, we send you all the good lumber, they pleaded. What will you build your houses with? Paper clips? The Mexicans, meanwhile, took a more philosophical approach. Hey, they shrugged, more tacos for us. But behind the jokes, a sense of unease began to settle in. The tariff tango, it seemed, was more than just a catchy name. It was a full-blown economic standoff, with real consequences for real people. The price of goods started to climb, businesses felt the pinch, and the average Joe, or should we say Jose, was left wondering why their beer suddenly cost more than their rent. Up in the Great White North, where the air is crisp and the beer is even crisper, Canadians were left scratching their heads. They'd always considered themselves America's friendly neighbor, the kind who brings over a casserole when you're feeling under the weather. But suddenly they were being treated like they'd brought over fruitcake instead. The news of the tariffs hit Canada like a polar bear in a china shop. Celine Dion album skipped a beat, and the Queen, well, let's just say she wasn't amused. The Prime Minister, a charming fellow with a penchant for whimsical socks, tried to make light of the situation. "At least we'll have plenty of maple syrup," he quipped, "though it might cost you a bit more now." But beneath the surface of Canadian politeness, a quiet panic began to simmer. The tariffs, they realized, were no laughing matter. The price of maple syrup, their national treasure, skyrocketed. Lumberjacks, once symbols of Canadian strength, were now facing unemployment lines longer than a hockey rink. And the beavers, well, they just kept building dams, oblivious to the economic turmoil unfolding around them. Meanwhile, south of the border, the mood was equally bewildered, albeit with a side of salsa. Mexicans, known for their warm hospitality and love of a good fiesta, were initially caught off guard. "Caramba," they exclaimed, "what's this gringo up to now?" The idea of a trade war with their northern neighbors seemed as absurd as a mariachi band playing polka music. Life went on as usual, for a while at least. The sun still shone, the tequila still flowed, and the avocados, those creamy green jewels of the culinary world, were still being harvested by the truckload. But as the tariffs began to bite, a sense of defiance began to bubble up. "We will not be bullied by these tariffs," declared the president. a charismatic leader with a penchant for fiery speeches. We have survived conquistadors, revolutions, and even the reign of Montezuma's revenge. We can certainly handle a little tariff tango. And so, the Avocado Avengers were born, a ragtag group of farmers, chefs, and even the occasional luchador, united in their mission to defend their beloved avocados. The ripple effects of the tariff tango were swift and far-reaching. The once seamless flow of goods across the northern border slowed to a trickle. Canadian bacon became a rare delicacy in American breakfast joints, and hockey fans were forced to pay exorbitant prices for their beloved pucks, now considered luxury imports. In Canada, the once thriving lumber industry was hit hard. Mills shut down, lumberjacks were forced to trade in their axes for unemployment checks, and the national animal, the majestic beaver, saw its habitat shrink as demand for Canadian timber plummeted. The loonie, Canada's currency, took a nosedive, making a trip to the US about as affordable as a weekend on Mars. On the US side, things weren't much rosier. The price of everything from breakfast waffles to furniture skyrocketed as the supply of Canadian maple syrup and lumber dried up. Construction projects stalled, pancake houses closed their doors, and the great American dream of owning a home seemed as distant as a Canadian Mountie on a moose. Down south, the situation was equally dire, albeit with a spicier flavor. The once bustling trade between the US and Mexico, a testament to their shared history and intertwined economies, ground to a halt. Avocados, those green gems once ubiquitous in American kitchens, became as rare as a sober spring breaker in Cancun. The price of guacamole skyrocketed, causing widespread panic among millennials who feared a future without avocado toast. Mexican farmers, once proud providers of the world's best avocados, watched in dismay as their crops rotted in the fields. The peso, Mexico's currency, took a tumble, making a trip to Tijuana seem like a luxury vacation. The tariff tango, it seemed, had backfired spectacularly. Instead of bringing his neighbors to their knees, the golden-haired leader had inadvertently united them in their opposition. The Canadians and Mexicans, once content to be America's friendly neighbors, were now forging their own path. A path paved with maple syrup, tequila, and a healthy dose of skepticism towards their northern neighbor. The art of the not-so deal, a symphony of tariffs. The tariff tango wasn't just a catchy name for a political gaffe. It was a full-blown economic ballet, with our leader as the overzealous choreographer. Tariffs hit everything from steel to solar panels. Every time you turned around, something else got a hefty import tax. The rationale? Protecting American jobs. But it was as clear as a mud puddle. The leader declared with the conviction of a used car salesman, "We're making America competitive again." But behind the rhetoric, a different picture emerged. The tariffs were as effective as a screen door on a submarine. Some industries saw a temporary boost, but at what cost? Raw material prices skyrocketed, forcing businesses to raise prices or lay off workers. The whole thing was as well thought out as a toddler's finger painting. Winners and losers, or how to make enemies and alienate people. In the land of the free market, every economic policy has its winners and losers. The tariff tango was no exception. While the leader touted benefits, the reality was nuanced, like a bowl of cold gruel. Some industries, with powerful lobbyists, saw a windfall. Steel and aluminum magnates toasted their fortune. But for every winner, there were countless losers. Farmers were hit particularly hard. Tariffs caused exports to plummet. Farmers faced a new enemy, their own government's policies. The Great American Tariff War, a comedy of errors in 3 acts. The tariff tango quickly turned into a full-blown trade war. Trading partners retaliated with tariffs of their own. The global trading system began to unravel. Tariffs escalated, leaving economists puzzled and consumers paying the price. Realization dawned that the trade war was a bad idea. The stock market went on a wild ride. The third act was anyone's guess. Negotiations, threats, and tweet storms added to the chaos. The global economy resembled a chaotic Rube Goldberg machine. When life gives you tariffs, make lemonade, the resilience of the human spirit. Despite the economic turmoil and political uncertainty, the American spirit, that indomitable force that had overcome adversity time and again, found a way to persevere. People adapted, they innovated, they even managed to find a bit of humor in the absurdity of it all. Families, faced with rising prices and stagnant wages, tightened their belts, clipped coupons, and rediscovered the joys of home-cooked meals and budget-friendly entertainment. Communities came together, organizing clothing swaps, tool libraries, and neighborhood potlucks, proving that even in the face of economic hardship, the bonds of human connection remained strong. The tariff tango, for all its negative consequences, also sparked a renewed appreciation for American ingenuity and resilience. Small businesses, the heart and soul of the American economy, found creative ways to adapt, sourcing materials locally, exploring new markets, and reminding everyone that even in the face of adversity, the entrepreneurial spirit could not be extinguished. The show must go on, or how the tariff tango became a national pastime. As the tariff tango dragged on, it became more than just an economic policy. It morphed into a national obsession, a never-ending source of drama, intrigue, and darkly comedic entertainment. Late-night talk show hosts had a field day, satirists sharpened their pens, and even the average Joe or Jane on the street had an opinion on the latest tariff-related news. News channels hungry for viewers dedicated entire segments to dissecting the latest twists and turns of the trade war, complete with expert analysis from economists who looked increasingly bewildered with each passing day. The tariff tango had become a reality show with the fate of the global economy hanging in the balance, and everyone, it seemed, was glued to their screens, watching the drama unfold in real time. In the land of the free and the home of the brave, the tariff tango had become the new national pastime, a bizarre spectacle that captivated, amused, and ultimately left everyone wondering, what in the world is going on? Ego Tango, the leader's self-congratulatory jig. Our protagonist, bless his cotton candy heart, was over the moon. "See what I tell you," he crowed, puffing out his chest like a pigeon in a mating ritual. "They said it couldn't be done. They said I was crazy. But look at us now, winning. Winning like nobody's ever seen." Never mind that the winning was about as tangible as a unicorn rodeo. Facts, in this instance, were as malleable as Play-Doh in the hands of a toddler. Statistics were cherry-picked, pronouncements made with the conviction of a carnival barker hawking miracle cures. He held rallies, those love fests of ego-stroking, where adoring crowds cheered every nonsensical syllable that tumbled from his lips. "We're taking back what's ours, making America strong again." The crowds roared, fueled by a potent cocktail of patriotism, economic anxiety, and a dash of good old-fashioned fear of the other. Section 2. Public Puzzlement. Wait, we're winning, right? Out in the real world, beyond rallies and sound bites, the average American was starting to feel a tad, well, fleeced. Prices at the supermarket were creeping up faster than a squirrel up a sycamore tree. That new washing machine? Forget about it, the import tariffs turned it into a luxury purchase. "Didn't he say things were going to be better?" whispered a claymation construction worker, scratching his head. "That my life was going to be so much better I wouldn't know what to do with it?" Dinner table conversations took on a more austere tone. "Beans again?" sighed a claymation teenager, poking at her plate. "It's good for you," snapped her claymation father, scanning the grocery store flyer for deals. "Besides, it's all we can afford now that those tariffs have made everything else cost an arm and a leg." Section 3. The Emperor's New Tariffs. When reality takes a back seat. Back in the White House, the leader remained oblivious to the growing discontent. Surrounded by a coterie of yes-men and sycophants, he continued to tout the success of his tariff tango, his voice dripping with self-congratulation. "Best tariffs ever," he declared, his tiny claymation hands gesturing wildly as if conducting an orchestra of economic prosperity. The media, ever eager to please the powers that be, dutifully parroted the official line, spinning tales of American resurgence and economic dominance. Charts and graphs, manipulated to within an inch of their lives, were trotted out as evidence of the tariffs' supposed success. It was a masterclass in gaslighting, a political sleight of hand that left the public questioning their own sanity. Were things really getting better, as the leader claimed? Or were they caught in some bizarre economic twilight zone where up was down and black was white? Section 4. Dissent in the ranks. Even the yes-men had their doubts. Even within the inner circle, cracks began to appear. Advisors, once eager to indulge the leader's every whim, started to have second thoughts. Whispers of doubt, like subversive mice scurrying through the walls of the White House, began to circulate. "Sir, about those tariffs," ventured one brave soul, his voice trembling ever so slightly. "The data suggests they might be having unintended consequences." "Fake news!" roared the leader, his tiny claymation fist pounding the resolute desk. "Those numbers are rigged. The deep state is trying to sabotage my beautiful tariffs." Dissent, it seemed, was not tolerated in the court of the tariff king. Those who dared to question the wisdom of his economic policies were quickly sidelined, replaced with more pliable sycophants, eager to tell the leader what he wanted to hear, regardless of the facts. And so the tariff tango continued, a surreal ballet of economic self-harm and political delusion. The nation, once a beacon of free trade and global cooperation, had become a caricature of itself, ruled by a leader who seemed determined to prove that even the most powerful economy in the world could be brought to its knees by a healthy dose of hubris and a complete disregard for the laws of economics. The rest of the world, initially amused by the spectacle of it all, watched with a mixture of pity and alarm. The American experiment, once a shining example of democracy in action, seemed to be teetering on the brink, a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power and the seductive allure of economic nationalism. As for the American people, they did what they always did in times of uncertainty and absurdity. They adapted, they persevered, and they found humor in the darkness. They shared memes, they told jokes, and they reminded each other that even in the face of a trade war, life somehow went on. And so, dear viewers, we arrive at the crux of our claymation chronicle. The tariff tango, in all its chaotic, nonsensical glory, stands as a testament to the times we live in, an era where truth is stranger than fiction, where political discourse resembles a playground squabble, and where a single tweet can send shockwaves through the global economy. Satire, once a sharp tool for social commentary, seems to have blunted its edge against the impenetrable armor of absurdity. How do you parody a world where the leader of the free world communicates in 140-character bursts, where facts are treated like inconvenient rumors, and where economic policy is dictated by whims and grudges? It's enough to make even the most seasoned political observer throw up their hands in exasperation, or perhaps seek solace in a stiff drink and a hearty dose of gallows humor. The line between reality and satire has blurred, leaving us to navigate a world where the ridiculous and the sublime collide with alarming regularity. Section 2. From Trade Wars to Twitter Wars, the shrinking attention span of a nation. The tariff tango, with its ever-shifting alliances, its dizzying array of statistics, and its sheer unpredictability, perfectly encapsulates our modern media landscape. We are a nation of headline skimmers, soundbite consumers, and social media addicts, our attention spans whittled down to the length of a TikTok video. Complex issues like international trade agreements or the intricacies of economic policy are reduced to simplistic narratives, easily digestible soundbites, and emotionally charged hashtags. Nuance is sacrificed at the altar of brevity, critical thinking replaced with knee-jerk reactions and tribal loyalties. We are, in a sense, all passengers on a runaway train of information overload, bombarded by a constant stream of news, opinions, and outright misinformation. It's no wonder that many of us simply tune out, retreating into our echo chambers, seeking solace in the comforting embrace of confirmation bias. Section 3. The Price of Laughter. Finding humor in the face of absurdity. And yet, amidst the absurdity, the chaos, and the often disheartening state of political discourse, we find ways to laugh. Humor, it seems, is our coping mechanism, our collective pressure valve in an era of unprecedented political and social upheaval. Late-night talk shows, once a source of light entertainment, have become platforms for sharp political commentary. Their hosts transformed into unlikely truth-tellers, wielding wit and satire as weapons against the onslaught of political doublespeak. Social media, for all its flaws, has become a breeding ground for memes, jokes, and satirical takes on the latest political follies, providing a much-needed dose of levity in an otherwise bleak landscape. Laughter, they say, is the best medicine. And in these turbulent times, it seems we need a heavy dose. Humor allows us to process the absurd, to find common ground amidst the polarization, and to remind ourselves that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges, the human spirit, with its capacity for resilience, creativity, and yes, even laughter, endures. Section 4, The Show Goes On, or How We Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Tariff. The tariff tango, like all dances, eventually comes to an end. The music stops, the partners bow, and the audience, slightly dazed but strangely exhilarated, files out of the theater ready to face the world anew. The tariffs themselves, those economic instruments of chaos, may linger. Their impact felt long after the initial frenzy has subsided. But the world, as it tends to do, will adapt. New trade routes will emerge, industries will adjust, and consumers, ever resourceful, will find ways to navigate the ever-shifting landscape of global commerce. The tariff tango, for all its absurdity, may have inadvertently served a purpose. It has forced us to confront the complexities of the globalized world, to question the assumptions underpinning our economic systems, and to recognize the interconnectedness of our fates. Section 5, Epilogue. A final thought for the road. As we bid farewell to the tariff tango, let us remember that the world is a stage, and we are all players in its grand, often absurd drama. Let us embrace the absurdity, find humor in the darkness, and never lose sight of our shared humanity. For in the words of the immortal bard, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. And with that, dear viewers, we leave you to ponder the curious case of the tariff tango, a political satire for our times. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay tuned. The show, as they say, must go on.